Hi, my name is Susan Weimer, and my blog is www.stampbackandrelax.blogspot.com, and I'm here with my Team Tuesday card for my Sweet Petunias design team. We take a turn on Tuesdays, and it's my turn today. We will be making this card using the Neat and Tangled Have Courage stamp set and the Maze die. That's kind of, I worked it into the background. Anyway, so here's my lovely desk. I have an A2 size piece of Nina Solar White, Simon Says Stamp Catkin ink, which I adore, the Maze die, the matching dies for the Have Courage Ginkgos, which I adore this. I have to tell you that I was going to a crafty retreat and I posted in the Facebook group that I wanted to know if someone who was local was bringing this set with them so that I could use it. And Danielle Walls replied that she was bringing it with her. I said, great, yay, I'll buy it. I'll buy it. I'd love to, I can't wait to borrow it. And she came over to my table, and Danielle Walls, as I should say, is the owner of Neat and Tangled. And she just gave it to me. She gave the set and the dies to me. I was beyond touched. I'm kind of getting a little teary here. But anyway, so here we are a little over the month later, and I'm finally doing something with it. I've been a little busy, challenging things here at home, at work. So anyway, here I am in my MISTI. I have 2 of the magnets. I find that just helps me. I have a really bad tremor, which doesn't show up that much in the camera, but it's really there. So this is why I use a MISTI. And I actually have 3 of them. And I have a MISTI that's off to the side that I'm going to store the stamps in and the dies so that I can keep myself from losing them, as if it's their fault that they fall off my desk. My goodness. Anyway, so I have some Memento Tuxedo Black here, and I'm going to stamp this large ginkgo leaf with that because it's Copic friendly. And we will be using Copics today. I am making this card for my son. I'm very proud of him. He has just finished his 3-year residency in internal medicine, and he's coming to visit this weekend. So I wanted to make him a special card, and also because it's Father's Day and he has my 2 grandchildren. So I made this card for him. But I also wanted to say, in talking about this stamp set, that I'm really loving that a lot of companies are coming out with larger stamps and sentiments that we can use in scrapbooking. Stamping is really the thing that I love, but I also love to scrapbook. So I have the Memory MISTI, and I'm planning on getting out some photos. Just do a scrapbook page with this. My dad passed away from Alzheimer's disease, and the ginkgo is a symbol of remembering. So I think I'm going to do a page for him. But anyway, with my Memory MISTI, hopefully I'll get it videoed. Excuse my messy desk. It's a disaster. The craft room's a disaster. I got to clean it before my granddaughter gets here because she keeps saying, I go in Drammy's art room. She calls it an art room, silly kid. But anyway, she calls me Drammy now. It used to be Dammy. I'm supposed to be Grammy, but I really could care less because whatever she says is absolutely adorable. So I have to clean it up, though, before she comes because there are some things in here that a 2-year-old it wouldn't be safe for her to play with. And besides, it's just embarrassing. So for my husband to walk in and see the mess, that's one thing. For a friend, except for my very closest friends who stamp also, no, nobody's walking in here and seeing this mess. So on this one, I just decided that I don't like to try to put the dies when they're that close together. So I'm just going to move this and stamp it again. And now I'm going to make the background. So I need to use my MISTI because of my tremor and because I have difficulty holding an acrylic block straight. So I just placed the stamps here where I wanted them. And the reason that I did this was because I wanted to double stamp the catkin ink. Not because I don't like the way it looks, that I think it doesn't look right the first time you stamp it. It's just because I like the depth of the color the second time. And I've used this ink a lot on a lot of different projects, so I know what it's going to do. And I also just wanted to show that your paper can go outside of your MISTI and the stamping will be just fine. I have had no problem with that ever, but I know that I can't line up a stamp. So I'm just wiping that off a little bit. To clean up, I'm using the mouse pad, the MISTI mouse pad. I do not have the laminated thing that goes on the top, but it is so easy to clean. All I did was spray some of the Hero Arts Ultra Clean stamp cleaner on it, and it just wiped up. Perfectly clean, looks brand new. So I changed to this from the paper just because I am a messy stamper and I was going through paper quite quickly. So hopefully we'll get this done. And anyway, so I'm also going to make this for a couple of, this card for a couple of graduations. I just think it's the perfect set, and the sentiments in there are really encouraging. I don't know where I put it, moved it, but I just like at the end, one of the inside sentiments says, let me look. Excuse that noise there. Courage to grow and become who you really are. I think that is such a treasure, especially today, and for kids that are going to college, that are graduating from high school or in junior high. We all remember how much fun that was. And so this set, I think, has so many different uses that it's well worth having it in your stash, and the dies are just beautiful. So now I'm going to Copic color it. And when I did first, and I didn't have the footage, I'm sorry, was I mapped out the shadows, or where I thought the shadows would be, using YG11. And here I'm using YG17 to put the darks in. And I have been really working hard on trying to improve my coloring. So when I was coloring this, I was watching a video on Coloring Pleats and Folds by Elise from Kitten Clowder. And that may seem to be a silly thing to say about a leaf, but these leaves have, and you can see where there's artist-drawn notches in them. The illustrator drew notches in them, and to me, I think they're indicating that's where a fold in the leaf should be. So I was just trying to work with it and to try and understand what the illustrator was doing. So I'm coming back in with G29 and trying to darken up some of those spots. I may have overdone it a little bit with the G29, but this is a great marker to have in your collection. It goes with almost everything in terms of the greens, the YGs, the Gs. I've even used it with the BGs. No, I won't sing any of the songs, just random thought there. But the other reason I picked this card was because we had a ginkgo tree. It was a tiny little one that we got at Monticello. And we planted it in our yard. And my wonderful son, he was obviously much younger then, one of his chores was to mow the lawn. So he came back in one day and said, so Mom, you know that little ginkgo tree? I said, yes. I think I just mowed it over. So I went out and there was a little piece of it still left. So I put a tomato cage around it. I thought if it's going to grow, God's going to let it grow. So a few weeks later, he came back in. So Mom, remember the leftovers of the ginkgo tree? And I just took a deep breath. Yes. Well, I think I just got it with the weed whacker. And sure enough, he had hacked off, a good chunk of it. But there were still some leaves there. So I watered it. We took care of it. It eventually started growing, but it never really developed into a tree. So we did have to remove it long story. But anyway, so that was kind of why I'm using this set. So it had two purposes. One, I love the sayings in it. And I am going to stamp, it is to grow and become who you really are in the inside, and to congratulate him. But also because I wonder if he remembers mowing over the ginkgo tree. And also because his wife, my daughter-in-law, who's just wonderful, watches my videos sometimes with my granddaughter. I'm sure she would just love to hear that story. If she's smart, she'll hire someone to mow the lawn. But anyway, so I really do think I overdid the fans, or the fold and the pleats in these leaves. I need to do it again. I've looked online to see how other people colored it, and they colored it a little bit differently, so I think I need to try that. I think also I don't know how to capture when a pleat folds in or a pleat folds out, or does that make sense? Because one of the ginkgo leaves that I looked on Google, the leaf was kind of more undulated. I don't know. But anyway, this is my first try, so I'm happy with it. But I have to keep practicing. I think with Copics, that's one thing that I've learned. I've gotten better over time, and I still have a long ways to go. But anyway, my other thing that I need to do is clean my craft room, because my granddaughter's coming, and she said to me on the phone that she wanted to play in Drammy's art room. Now, I think it's funny that she calls it an art room, but she wants to come and play, and I want her to come and play in here. So I need to pick it up and maybe select some stamps that'll be fine for her to work with. And she's used my MISTI before. She loves it. She loves closing the door. I forget how she says it exactly. But she was, I don't know, 1 3/4 the first time she used my MISTI. So it goes to show you what a handy tool it is. That a little child could do that so easily. So I've got to clean up in here. I just can't decide if I'm going to let her use my Copics or not. But I have a bunch of replacement nibs. If she's having fun and her mom says it's okay, then I think I'll let her do it. Because if it's raining, like it does often here in Florida in the afternoons, coloring is a good thing to do. And I'm sorry about that little pause there. I don't know what I did. But, so I'm just going to color this one leaf on camera, and then I went on to color the other leaves exactly the same way. I tried to make them look a little bit different, and then I die cut them out. So in this next section, we'll go on and we'll assemble the card. So I have a piece of Basil heavyweight vellum, and I've die cut 4 of the maize dies that I'm going to place over the background of these. And then I just sort of wanted to make like a Chinese lattice pattern. I guess was the look that I was going after. But I wanted it to have a lot of texture in the background. So I'm going to put it in my MISTI so that I can use the magnets to hold those dies in place. And allow me to glue them down without really losing the positioning, because there's just a lot of moving parts here. So I'm just going to put those down. And I'm going to use some liquid adhesive. What did I use? It's Novo Deluxe adhesive on the backs of these to get them to stay in place once I had them where I wanted them to go. So, and I'm just using the magnets to fasten them. And I really could have not fussed so much over where I put these. I think they're so asymmetrical or symmetrical that you could twist them about and it would have looked just fine. And I did use and I'm just checking my positioning, I did use a piece of Basil heavyweight vellum, if I didn't already say that. And then I'm just going to place the leaves on there. I am nuts. Excuse the thunder if you hear any, because we're getting storms. And then I'm just going to glue each one of these things down. Yep, it was the Novo Deluxe. I never know what I'm going to grab. It's whatever's sitting right in my face is what I pick. And then I'm going to weight them down with acrylic blocks to hold them down until they're dried. So it was a pretty easy card to make, except that there were a lot of steps. But like I said, it's definitely one I'm going to make again. And it's one where you could change up the sentiment underneath and use something else. Like I think Neat and Tangled has some larger sentiments for that say amazing, fabulous. I think, and actually this would be kind of cute to use the spring one and make a spring card. I think there's also a new summer stamp or die out too. I've got to go back and look. I might have to go shopping. So I'm just going to put those in place, got my blocks on, and I'm going to move it. Now it's pretty well stuck together out of my MISTI so that I can do some stamping on the vellum. And I just wiped that off real quick, dried it off. Love working on this surface. Put my magnets back in place. Then I'm going to use a powder tool. But first I'm going to double check. I can just lay these leaves, oh my gosh, out so that I can get the placement of the sentiment where I want it. And I have to go a little bit off of the vellum, and that's okay because the vellum's cut to 4 by 5 1/4 inches. And yeah, so I'm going to use my powder tool to treat the paper so that I'm removing any static from it. And I'm going to use VersaFine. VersaFine Onyx Black. And then I'm going to heat emboss over that with clear embossing powder. And I think it's much easier to stamp in the VersaFine than to stamp in the Versamark and then add black powder, which we all know no matter what you do, you are going to have little black dots all over your project. So unless you're looking for that look, you want that look, then go for it. But I have been done with black embossing powder for years. I still have a ton of it, but I'm not getting it out. So I got out the clear. And in order to heat emboss on vellum, you really should heat up your tool ahead of time away from the paper. And then when I hit it, I really wiggle it around because I don't want it to warp my vellum. And I find that that's the best way to do this. So that's all done. And now I'm going to attempt to group these so that I can tie a little piece of twine around them. And I'm not really good at this part. And I should say that this card design was inspired in part by a card that I saw Kathy Rukosin make a few challenges ago. It's one of my favorites where she makes like a bouquet of some flowers and then she has a background that's different. And I just like that look because it allows me to have more fun with my stamps and to just do something different. And then in this case, I also use my die. So I'm just putting some adhesive on the backs of them. And I'm going to actually pop up the front two with some foam tape just to get some dimension. Even though there's already a lot going on in this card, it's pretty flat. And he's going to be here, so I figure I'm just going to give it to him. I may even make the envelope. I might get brave and do that. Do some envelope art. And I'm adding a little bit of the Novo Deluxe adhesive to make things are staying firmly in place. Then we're going to weight this out. And so I'm going to cut off the extra bits that are over the card. And I'm brushing them off my desk. That's a miracle. Okay, I brushed them off onto the floor, but, the broom picks them up. Another time they're going to the back of my desk. Oh my goodness. But this is real life. This is how I craft. Isn't this how you craft? I make a mess. I know some people don't make a mess, but I make a mess. And that's okay. We're just keeping it real. It would be a lie. I'm just going to put my MISTI up to the side, going to adhere my vellum panel down. I'm putting some dry adhesive behind the leaves so the adhesive won't show. And that is the one problem with vellum, is that adhesive will show through it. So you've got to try to hide it somewhere. And then I'm just going to put some adhesive down onto my card base and then mount that right on top of it. I like to work separately from a card base, just so that it's come out cleaner. And there's the card. And thank you for stopping by my YouTube channel today and for being here. And please hit thumbs up and subscribe. Would love to have you. Thank you.